family, but you haven't built a family. Because that's going to require time, effort, money, passion, work, So he said years ago, build people. I've never forgot that. And I believe that Redeeming Grace, we've gone through a lot of transition. It's been a journey. Some of it's been a little difficult because in the middle of transition, you can always feel like unsettled. I know Maggie's about to have a baby any moment. And when you get to transition, when you've had a baby, after the first time you go to transition and having a child, you know the second time, and you know the third. I remember with Israel, laying on the bed, and I was dilated to a 4, and they came and they gave me an IV to get fluids in me because they said he was a month early and I needed fluids, so I had to lay there for a half hour and take fluids, and in that meantime they had given me some sort of pill type thing that would maybe speed up my contractions. And so I laid there for my half hour, and they said after a half hour you can get up and walk. So in the middle of that half hour, I felt myself go through transition. Very calmly, I turned to my friend, I said, I just went through transition. She's like, you did? I'm like, I did. I had gone through transition and no one knew it, I knew it. And then the half hour was up and I stood up on my feet. I said, I think I'll go for a walk. And I stood up and said, I have to push. So they shoved me back up on the bed and I had a baby. Now, that was a really interesting, easy birth, except for pushing. Obviously, you pushed a little bit, but transition, for the most part, you can feel really unsettled. You can feel like, I want to get off the bed and run. I want to scream. I don't know what's going on. I mean, there's all kinds of emotions that go through a woman's mind. Like, this is too painful, I can't take this. Or if this gets even worse at all, I quit. I've been at many, many births. I have seen girls get off the bed during transition and say, I'm going home. I'm not doing this. You're like, you are not going home. I'm going home. I'm done with this. This is a bunch of crap. You're like, no, you're going to have a baby. So everybody reacts differently. And our church has gone through transition. And there's been times you wanted to get off the bed and run. I'm done. I'm going home. Well, where are you going? I don't know, but I'm going home. Yeah. And I've had to, I know Pastor has too, but I've had to just collect myself. Going to Florida was a good time for me to collect my thoughts. And where am I headed? And where are we headed in the ministry? What are you asking of us, Father? And even meeting with our leadership. I mean, I think all of us have drawn conclusions and come to conclusions of sonship, our sonship services. Where are we headed with the ministry? Where are we headed in building people? Are we building people? What are you asking of us, Lord? What's required? And so to say that every ministry here in Traverse and across the world knows exactly where they're going at all times, I think is a misnomer, because I think you take one step at a time. And sometimes you got to put that foot down, and then the next foot down, and the next foot down. I was here the other day, and I was here at the building. We were last Wednesday. We were cleaning up inside, and I came over to use the restroom, so I was over here sort of by myself. A couple kids were in here on the couch. And I walked back over towards that big building. I stood there and I looked at it. And I had a flashback to the day that we had came on the property. And we felt like this was the property that God's asking us to get. And it was beyond, in a sense, what I could imagine for us at the time. And I thought, God, if we're going to have this property, you're going to have to work a miracle. I mean, to get this property, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to pull some strings, because I could not figure out in my mind how we could do that. And I just stood there last Wednesday and I stared at the building and I had that flashback and I thought, wow, I don't think God's changed his mind of what he has for us, the purpose he has for us, the journey he has for this ministry, and where we are to express, and what we are to express in the north. What's our portion? We're just a small portion of the kingdom. But God, what is our portion? Can we focus on that? And obviously, there's many times in life you can get distracted, you can get discouraged, you can feel defeated, and to refocus or adjust the sails, so to speak, really, in one sense, takes humility. It also takes a sense of trust. And then other times it's just a matter of, this is just working, this isn't working. Does that make sense to anybody? So I got this scripture and I thought, one of the things my husband and I have said, and I think we basically have felt that we need to do a better job of writing the vision or making the vision clear. We, whenever we talk in life about goals or future things, or I would love to do this, I would love to go here, I would love to experience this. Like from the time I was in high school, I was in the 11th grade, when our teacher, who was our psych teacher, had us go around the room and write down where we wanted to go visit in life. Just a place on the planet you want to go visit. And every kid had some exotic place. I want to go to Paris, and other places where I want to go to Italy. And it came to me and I said, I want to go to Africa. I was the only one in the room that wanted to go to Africa. And I actually got scorned for it. They're like, Africa? Weirdo, But I was like, yeah, I want to go to Africa, and I want to go on a safari, and I want to go see the children. And I just wanted to do that. And every once in a while, Africa would still creep up. You still want to go to Africa? Yeah, I still want to go to Africa. And there'd be times I would see pictures. I used to get National Geographic, was one of the only magazines as a child that I saw. I don't even know why. I think my grandmother had them. And so I would look at all the pictures, and most of them were all from Africa. Maybe that's why. But I would see all the, the bush country and the giraffes and the elephants, and I would dream. It would be just cool to go to Africa. I didn't realize how different Africa was, because you're thinking Africa's like America as a child. It's like America, it's just got jungles instead of woods. No, yeah, everything's a jungle, but I didn't know, where I was. So you dream. And as you dream, I really believe God gives you opportunity to work that dream. And I think as a ministry, we have to dream more. And we need to write the vision, and we haven't done a very good job. A lot of times when you're in a situation of transition, and you all know we've gone through transition, and we've gone through some difficult times, even with losing churches, so to speak, or closing churches down, and bringing churches together and adding. We've just gone through stuff. And in that, you can forget to dream. You just see the situation at hand, and you can forget to dream, and you can get discouraged, and you can get disheartened, and you can lose vision. And as I was thinking about this, I like this scripture, guys. It says, I will stand my watch. I will set myself on the rampart and watch to see what he will say to me and what I will answer when I'm corrected. The just live by faith. Then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain on the tablets that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. But at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Although it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And I think the vision still that I have in my heart for Redeeming Grace and the ministry is to reach out to this community. Now my mindset has changed in how I reach out, and even the message that originally when we even bought the building, the message has changed. I think it's a better message, but how to reach out to this community and be effective is what we need to dream. And I want us to dream. I want us to realize, you guys, I don't know why, but I think there's a shift that's coming in, especially the American church, but it's coming in the church, I think, in general. And your generation, if that's the word for it, your, what's the word, age group, your mindset, your who you are, the young people, young adults, you're different than, huh? Yeah, thanks, Coda. Your culture is different than my culture was. You know, I grew up in the 60s where we went to church. I seriously, you know, the songs that we sang, Kitties with a Curl on Top, was exactly how, you know, bright on a Sunday morning, all across the blessed land. They come from near and far as they're joined by one great star with a Bible in their hand. Sunday school is their appointment, marching with their mom and pop. They'll be in their place with the bright and shiny face, those kitties with the curls on top. Bible in their hand, twinkle in their eye. They make the older folks smile and sigh. They get the green light from the corner cop who loves those kitties with the curls on top. The Sunday school songs they love to sing. They stroll along as the church bells ring. And then they hurry up with a skip and hop to be in place with their curls, pretty little curls on top. We used to sing that in church. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Okay. My culture, I remember a lot of things. Our culture was you go to church with your mom and pop. You have the little black patent leather shoes and the little white socks with lace. Okay? You wear your Sunday best. Mom usually would have a hat. And we had, even some women wore gloves. Okay, 60s. You go and you sit in a row. You get to go to Sunday school, which is an hour before church starts. And then we come up from Sunday school and we sit in a row. The youngest next to mom, next, up to the oldest. You don't move, you don't speak, you don't blink. Or you get the snap of the finger and the look, and you know you're getting spanked after church. Okay? It's just the way it was. Yeah, it's called the look. Do you remember? Anybody else remember but me? You're dead. You see the look and you're like, you know, and now it's kind of interesting. I said, our kids in the church, they have their tablets on. You know what I had? I had a handkerchief. And we would roll the handkerchief up. I could fold it out like this. You fold it in half so it looks like a diamond. And then you roll this end, and you make twins. And you turn it like this, and it's a baby in a blanket, twins. And that's what I played with in church. But the culture has so changed with this generation. And we did our duty, so to speak. We went to church, we talked to people, we went on Sunday morning, you went on Sunday night, you went on Wednesday, and if you didn't, you were not a Christian. You were not a Christian. You don't go to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, you were considered backslidden, and really, you know, people looked at you like you are going to hell in a handbasket. So you didn't miss. And my dad would pride himself. Every time that church doors are open, we're there come hell or high water. Snow, flood, you know, whatever the weather, we're at the church. And that's great. I mean, I slept under the pews. I would be exhausted. I was a typical, PK in some ways. I just would fall asleep and lay on the floor and sleep on the floor. But the culture has changed. And we're okay with that because we do. And so now your culture, your generation, you want community, you want relationship, you want, God had given my husband a word years ago, show me that you care. I'm not just talking you guys, I'm talking your generation. They want hands-on, show me you care, connect with me. And so I think one of the things that we always were and always have been very relational with young people, connecting with them, doing foster care, doing youth ministry. Mostly youth lived at my house. And so there was a great connection to young people and young adults. And so it always so bothers me. I just saw this on, I think it was actually Dominic's page. Somebody said something about his boys. Wait till they get to be teenagers. I'm like, yeah, exactly. They're going to be amazing. Because when you have the mindset, oh, wait till they're teenagers, you're going to hate it. I never looked at teenagers that way. I just loved every stage, and I think teenagers are amazing, and they have so much more energy, and you can just do so many things if you have them pointed in the right direction. So writing the vision and making it plain, I really think at times, guys, and maybe it has changed some too, because it kind of progresses, but I think that we could do way better. And I'm saying that from your ministry team. We can do way better in writing the vision. Where are we going? What do we want to accomplish? We have us, the core, but what do we want to accomplish here in northern Michigan? And one of the greatest things I believe we need to do, obviously, is teach you who you are in Christ and who the Father is to you, so that we can spread that, so we can give that to everybody we meet. My mindset has changed towards people. I don't see people in the sense that I used to see them, and that's good. When I go places, I treat them as a brother and sister in Christ, even though they may not be born again. Because I now see them, as Pastor was preaching this morning, through a different lens. I see that they are all children of God. They just don't know yet how good Jesus is. They don't know about the kingdom, and it's my job to show them. If it's just through love, it's just through, a moment that I can get them to be somewhat interested. Here's what I want to bring up. Acts chapter 2, verse 46. And this is where I think some of the church may be progressing differently. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. It says here, day by day, and this is the early church, guys. Acts 2:46 says, day by day, continuing with one mind in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart. Now, I understand we can't meet for supper every night. This here is a day by day. If you read other translations, it actually says daily. Daily, with one accord, they would all go to the temple together. Now, I understand they lived probably close together, and maybe they weren't running an Amazon business. And, their life might have been a little bit different at that time. But it says daily, with one mind, breaking bread from house to house. So here's the thing that I kind of picked up, is they were in each other's houses. They actually had community going, and they were building community with one another. They were breaking bread and taking meals together. In the body of Christ, do you guys ever feel like you're as close to your church family as you are your natural family? Have you ever felt that way? Because I have. I have felt like there have been people in my church family that feel like my brothers and sisters as much as my brothers and sisters. And I think part of that is, for one, we're joined in community, we're joined in vision, we're joined in heart, but it also has to do with relationship and breaking bread, taking meals together with sincerity of heart. When you pray one for another and care deeply for one another, it bonds you to people. It bonds you to that person. It bonds you to each other. And so where I would like to see, and we've discussed this a little bit, even in the ministry, is doing more community with each other, reaching out one to another, maybe coming up this fall doing small groups and keeping them, if they grow bigger, because we can grow our small group. Once it gets to a certain size, it breaks off into another small group. But having more community, house to house, sharing one with another, learning together. You know, here, obviously, it says breaking bread and taking meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart. There's another scripture that said that they were breaking bread and sharing doctrine. There was like 3 different places where it talked about, 1 was doctrine and 2 was actually community. I should have found that one up. Maybe one of you guys can look it up for me. I believe it was, it basically is, you can look up the word doctrine and find it. But I really believe that 2/3, guys, of our ministry needs to be community and connection. Because what Pastor Darren preached the other week, people don't care what you know. They want to know how you care. And so if we can show how we care, 2/3 more than what we know, then we're going to see people come into the kingdom. People come into the kingdom because of us. My mom and dad came into the kingdom because a neighbor made a pie. That's all. She just made a pie. And of course, you know, they went to their cute little Baptist church and they got saved, and we got to wear patent leather shoes, and we got to sit in the pew with our mom and dad, and we got to sing songs like "Ba, ba, ba, cried the little sheep. I'm running away from home." And I won't sing that one to you, but that's another one that I used to sing. And, you know, "Only a Boy Named David," and all the songs I grew up with as a little child, and I wouldn't take any of it back. Did you find it, Pastor Darren?
It's probably Acts 2:42.
Acts 2:42.
And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread and in prayers.
That's it right there. And then it goes into 2:46. Pull that one up, Ty. And they continued devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to breaking of bread and to prayer. See, I love that. That kind of gives us a layout. To the teachings, yes, but also to fellowship, to breaking of bread and prayer. And you know, we were discussing prayer. I was outside tonight just praying in the parking lot. And, you know, we got to the place where prayer, a lot of times, especially in the summer, was just the 4 of us sometimes, maybe 5 of us. And it got smaller and smaller, so we thought, we're just going to shut it down because I can pray at home. I don't need to drive over here and pray with, you know, Brittany and Darren. Sometimes it was just Pastor and I. And I started thinking tonight, and it was kind of cool because I want to do a prayer night at my house in the backyard because I have a beautiful stereo system that blasts into my backyard. And I want to do a prayer night at my house in the backyard. And we can sit out back and pray, and we can have coffee, and we can then, after we pray, we can have fellowship. So I'm going to combine prayer and fun, and fellowship and breaking of bread. So fellowship, breaking of bread, and prayer. So I'm going to put that out there before summer's over, that I want to do a night of prayer in our backyard. And we'll have a campfire and we'll eat some food, but we're going to pray for the region and pray for the church and pray one for another. And I think, guys, the thing that I'm seeing is I don't know where the church got it, where we came and we just sat in a pew. I remember God saying that years ago to me. Who told you to run church like this? America. The 60s. I don't know. Who told you that you come to church, you do 3 songs, you do a poem of prayer, you do announcements, you take up offering, and then you sit there for 45 minutes to an hour and listen? Who told you to do that? Somewhere we have modeled it, this is the way it is, and this is what we need to do. And I think it's okay for us to be creative and to really honestly take everything to the table and think about, what does church look like? How much are we outreaching to our community, to people, to those around us? And a lot of it's going to have to do with fellowship and showing people we care more than what we know. I want them to know what we know because that's important. But they don't give a rip what we know if we don't care. Right. So that's just kind of some of the things that's on my mind. And I think that you're going to see our sonship services are going to switch up to more like, it'll be sonship, it'll be sons of God reaching out to the community or connecting with one another. And if it's every month, especially in the summertime, or if it's every 6 weeks, I don't know what that's going to look like. But I know things are in transition, because I feel like sometimes we come to church and it's a bless me club. Teach me and tell me what more I can learn. And I think God's now making everybody uncomfortable. Let's do what you know. Let's do what you know. I've taught you a lot. Now let's do what you know. So part of that is reaching out. I know that Kaylee is setting in and starting forward in the missions, but it's not just missions here or abroad, it's missions here, to get the mindset and all of us coming around that together and building a good evangelistic team. I was telling my husband today, I said, what if we had small groups and we had a subject that we pick and we each decide we're going to try to get one person to come, just one. And maybe 1 week it's the person I bring, maybe somebody else can't get them, but we have one new person, and then all of us decide we're going to connect. We're going to get to know and find out who that person is. I was sharing this afternoon, Pastor Dominic and I were talking about Trinity, because obviously he was there and he was with his mom, who's my sister, who was very, very community, very hospitality, like let's do this, let's do that. They're always on the go. But one thing with Trinity, when people would come through the door, any new family came through the door, they were almost swarmed like bees. But they were swarmed with love. Like one family would say, hey, what are you guys doing after church today? Well, we were just going to go home. Why don't you come over to our house for lunch? And almost every time they'd go, well, okay. And then they would go for lunch and they'd get to know one family. And then the next Sunday they would come back and another family would say, hey, what are you doing after church today? Well, we were going to go home. Well, why don't you come over for lunch? And literally we had, I kid you not, with one family, we had people waiting in line for them to come to their house for lunch. And they laughed about it later once they got really connected to the church. They said, there was weeks we never went home. It was like people were taking numbers to have us come to lunch. But what it did was it showed them community, who we are. And then what happens is a new family comes in. That family that had been taken to lunch and was connected, they were right in line ready to take the next family to lunch. And I'm telling you, there's a way that we can reach out. And myself included, guys, I think in America, and especially recently, in the last so many years, we build huge backyards and we put fences around them so nobody can see in and be a part of it, where people used to sit on their front porch and talk to all their neighbors as they pass by in the street. But now we all sit on our back porch and put fences around it. And I think God's trying to get us out of the fence mentality, that it's time for us to get off the back porch And honestly, guys, it starts with us. Like, how many knows, I'm going to pick on Gina. How many knows Gina and Coda very well? Okay, Laura raised her hand. All right, Laura, you don't count. But they're a newlywed couple. And they're starting in life. So, where you say, hey, what are you guys doing? I want to get to know you a little bit. I'm telling you, that is so valuable. Or Lisa and Paul. Even your pastors, believe it or not, I told my husband when we were at Light of the North, we were invited to lunch like 4 times in a huge church. We just weren't ever invited to lunch. We would have people come to our house, but we weren't invited to lunch. It was almost like, well, they won't go. They won't come. And when people would invite me, I was like, really? I am so there. So some of that, we just don't think outside the box and honestly getting to know each other's hearts. So that's partly where I'm headed. That's where I believe God's taken us. Do you guys have anything? I know I want to just go sit for a moment. In fact, we can go do that right now. Let's change our position. This is going to be really weird. But let's all go sit out by the fire, okay? So everybody run out there. No fire. I'm sorry. Do we have a fire? We don't need the fire. Let's just go sit outside by the fire and pretend like we have one. So I'm going to take this off, and we're going to go out there, and I want us to talk a little bit about vision, and I want to hear from your hearts too with some of the things that we can do as a ministry and as people. Here's the thing, guys. Every single one of us in this room are called into the ministry. Every single one of us have a portion to play in that ministry. And I mean in life, in the kingdom. I've always said for a long time, my brother Kendall is hospitality to the max. He loves to get together, and he got that from my mom. My mother, I'm not kidding, growing up in my mom's house, and we weren't preachers yet, we went to the Assembly of God in Boyne City. We had someone at our house every single Sunday almost. Strangers. I didn't even know people. I'm like, who's that person, Mom? And I remember, I think I've said this before, my mom invited a blind guy over. I think I was 5. And she brought out a jar of olives. We never got olives, very rarely green olives. I loved green olives. She brought out a jar of green olives. I swear this guy could smell them. He sat at the table, totally blind, and he would reach for the olives, and he'd find the jar, the bowl, because they're in a bowl. And I still remember this. He would take them out, and he was eating them before lunch was served. And I'm mortified because he's eating all the olives. And I'm looking at him like, Mister, stop eating all the olives. And he did. He continued to eat the entire bowl of green olives, which I don't think I ever got, and so it was traumatizing to me. But my mom would have people come over, and she would just say, oh, come over, I'll just throw extra potatoes on. We might get a piece of meat this big and a glop of potatoes this big. And added vegetables, which I hated, lima beans or anything. But she would make food stretch, and we were poor. I just didn't know it. But she would do that for community and hospitality. And that's still within me. I told my husband, I said, there was always somebody living in our basement. Always somebody living in our house. My whole life growing up. My mom took in people that needed help or they needed a place to stay, or she did foster care for a while. And that's just how it is. That's how my house, that was in me. That was put in me. Hospitality and opening your home and helping people get a foot up and get, transferred into a new area. And so that's part of who I am. And maybe that season's coming to a close. I don't know. People are like, no, I got to give my son a room. I got to actually let him have his own room for a while. It'd be really nice as a mother to let him have a room. So there's a lot of things that are put in us, obviously by observation, what we observe when we come into the room. What are our weaknesses here? How can we shore them up? And what are some of our strengths? And how can we make them stronger? And you're a part of that. Every single one of us here are a part of that. I know Sunday nights I'm preaching to the choir. And the synergy somewhat with Sunday nights has gone down, and I realize that too. And I don't want to just have another service to have another service. Like I was saying, I don't need to just have a prayer service to just have a prayer service and no one comes. You know what I'm saying? If we do that, you want a purpose in things. And so I think there's just adjusting that's going on, and we're going to adjust our sales a little bit. But let's go out there. Do you have anything else you wanted to say? Anybody? You do, Pastor? And then I want us to just continue for a minute.
That.
It's almost 7:30.
But
so.
one of my hearts too is that we start taking our income from the church and take 5 or 10% of the income, and we actually start doing some outreaches with it. But that requires obviously sacrifice. We finally sold the building, and not that we're rolling in the dough yet, but we've paid off a lot of bills, and we've gotten so we're not behind anymore. And so one of my heart's desire is that all of us would kind of catch a vision for people. And so what would happen if we had $100 a month or $200 a month? Say we took in $2,000 a month. Don't know what we take in. Brittany handles that. But say we take in $2,000 a month and we take $200. And you would know that, and you could say, I'm going to keep sewing because I know they're going to start taking care of people. And we just go over, like our next door neighbor over here, he told me the other day, about a month ago, he said, my tires are shot and I have no way to buy tires, and it's $150. And he had helped me do some mowing, and so I took him $50, but that's all I had from the church. What would happen if I had the $150? You know what I mean? I could just go, I'm going to help you with that just because we love you. And see, it's not so much that you just do that with one person, but what happens to his neighbors beside him? And they're like, yeah, that church really loves people and cares about them. And so we want to be known as a church that cares, that all of our money, how many know sometimes the church can be a building and all that can be a black hole. It sucks. Bob knows he's been in business. He ran business there in Beulah. And it takes a lot of money just for the building, the upkeep, all that, the gas, the electric, all that stuff. But we're not in the business of a building. We're in the business of people, right? And so if all of our money goes for that, that's where it gets a little disheartening. And so we had to catch up some bills and get some things done. And so my goal is that we'll be able to take, and we'll have to look at it at first. It might be only 5%, but I'd like to go 10%. I'd like to go 15%. I'd love to go to, you know what I mean? And keep going up, because that way we can actually touch more people, because it does take money, no matter how you look at it, to touch people. You can invite them over your house and that kind of thing, but people have needs. You know what I mean? People have needs, and sometimes no way to meet them. And there's some people that have no person to help them. And I just believe that's part of the function of the church we should be doing.
One more thing. I see this building as a really cool young adult and youth center, like a coffee bar. I've seen an actual coffee bar in there with all of it, just like Starbucks. In that whole area. I mean, a really nice espresso, ice cream, yummy coffee bar. And I know that's going to take money. I know Pastor Darren's like, I'm there. But that and having this facility, I see bands coming here, some Christian, whatever you want to call it, nights where you have a dance club and you guys connect and you have a lot of young adults and youth here, and it's just good, clean fun with coffee and fellowship. And honestly, it's a place where young people and young adults can come and meet other young adults. I can see that in this building, and making it a place where, they had streeters, and they still have streeters, I guess, but you can have, isn't streeters still going? Yeah. Okay, that's kind of what that is. Right? It's like, but you get alcohol there, right? Or no? Do you get alcohol there? That's what I thought. Huh? Okay, it's a club. But I was thinking more like a club, but not quite that kind of club, but still a place where people could come hang out and talk, and just a really awesome, fun, rocking place. I've seen that since we got the place. And of course, we've got the building started, and we need to just complete and believe God to complete that. But even so, these are tools. These are just tools. We were discussing, there's so many people, guys, there's so many people, even on my Facebook page, but even in this city that are just disheartened with church. They want community, they want connection. And honestly, there's large churches in this area where they go for 45 minutes to 1 hour. And I've talked to them. People that go there, they're like, I go there, I check in, I check out, I don't know anybody. They can have opportunity. There's small groups in some of the places, but they just go do their job and get out and live life. And that's not what we're called to do. I don't believe we're just called to come in, check out. I want to connect. I want to heal broken hearts. I want to minister to the lives of people, and I believe all of us do. And that's going to take a little bit more than 45 minutes a week. So, daily, I can't say daily, although Pastor Amanda was saying today that your brother's church, they have something going every single night of the week. Now, the pastors are probably not there. They have a huge congregation and a huge support team and ministry team, so I'm sure not one person is doing it. For me to be here every night of the week, I couldn't. I just couldn't and be able to have any sort of get life done. No, but there are things that you do. You do. So let's go out there just for a minute. Let's go out there at least till 8 o'clock, and I want to listen to you, and maybe we can have a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere, but I just thought it'd be nice. It's so beautiful. Let's go outside for a minute and enjoy the evening and connect a little bit. And you guys can share some of the things that's on your heart too. Maybe some of the things you see. That's your portion. And write down some thoughts. What's some of your portion in the kingdom? What do you feel God's putting on your heart, and how can that merge in with the ministry here? I remember one guy, I'll tell you a really quick story. John Osteen's church, there was a guy there, and John Osteen's church was 10,000 people. And he said to John, he said, listen, he said, we live in Houston, and it's like international port, Houston. And he said, there's so many people that come to this port from all the nations of the world. And my heart is they can come to church on a Sunday morning that speaks all the languages of the world, not just English. And John's like, okay, what's it going to take to make that happen, and do you want to head it up? And the guy's like, yeah, that's in my heart. He's like, okay, what's it going to cost? Of course, they were a larger church, and they made it happen. And you go to John Osteen's church, when we went there, now obviously it's Joel's, and it's probably the same, there's a section for the Spanish, and they put on headsets that plug right in, and they speak. You have an interpreter in a box. There's all these different interpreters all around the auditorium. You had Spanish, you had French, you had Russian. All these different languages were preaching the gospel in this port city. Now is that conducive for us? No. But in Houston, it was. And one person had the idea and wanted to make it happen, and that was his portion in their ministry. And they made it happen, and now their church reaches out to, they're bilingual. They're more than bilingual, they're quadlingual, blah-blah-blah-lingual, and whatever it is. They have all these languages that they speak. And they all get to hear the gospel. And then they get to take it back to their country, because they're only there in the port for a season, and then they leave. And so they're taking the gospel to the whole world right there in Houston. I loved that story. I never forgot. I said, so what's your portion? So let's go.